UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
To all who listen to this happy podcast, this is Mickey's Marvels on the United Federation of Podcasts.
You can contact the network at contact@ufp.earth, on Twitter at UFPearth, and on Facebook.
I'm your host, Magic, and join with me, as always, welcome back, is my good friend Tribz.
I'm back. Hello, Magic. How are you?
I am great. How have you been doing?
Oh, real life took a toll, as it always does on us. We take a break for a while, but I've been itching at the bit to come and talk with you, and I couldn't wait to get back on mic. I'm so thankful to be back here talking with you. Some housekeeping stuff out of the way. Big thank you to Cinderella Amy Nelson for filling in for me, as you guys covered Robin Hood, the Disney movie, the animated movie. What a great episode that was. First of all, Happy New Year, Magic. Happy New Year, listeners. It's been that long.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's been that long.
I'm hoping the new year has been kind to both you and our listeners out there. Congratulations on AGT. All good things. It opened up to great reviews. It's been a great listen. So congratulations on the start of that podcast as well.
Thank you very much. We were really excited about that one. You know, Amy and I did another podcast called The Edge, which only covered Discovery, and now we're getting to cover everything Star Trek, although CBS is doing its best to make sure that that's only new stuff, because they want to release new things every day of the year, apparently. But we're really excited about it. A little more housekeeping. There are 2 other episodes that are not going to feature Chris. I recorded one with my wife, and I recorded one with my son. But Chris and I wanted to get on mic and do something, so they've been pushed back a week each, or 2 weeks each, so that we can get this one done and we can get on mic again together.
Yeah, I really missed the one with you and the wife. I did have a little fun rapid fire question thing all set up and ready to go because I wanted to hear both your answers, but apparently I missed out on that. For that, I apologize. But
don't worry, we go on vacations all the time.
That's exactly it. That's exactly why I'm sorry, but not sorry all the same. But yeah, it's great to be back on mic with you. And, you know, there's nothing like talking about Disney with friends and who I consider you one of my best friends. So here we are.
And ironically, we're not going to talk Disney.
Ironically not. And nonetheless, I get back instead of, you know, although we say that, you know, to all who listen to this happy podcast, this movie is kind of a subtle reverse in that aspect. And this is a movie that you wanted to do, and that I said, let's go ahead and do it. And here we are to do it. So if you want to go ahead and give the listeners a little background as to what this movie means to you.
Get your popcorn, get your drink. The movie's about to start.
Okay, so we're going to cover, because we promised this months ago, All Dogs Go to Heaven, because my dog, Jules, he passed away a while ago now, but we just haven't had time. Mandalorian popped up, and then we were trying to do that, and I went on vacation, then Chris had to do some work stuff, and then I've been stuck at work doing a lot of work, and you know, I was able to scrounge around, and Amy was nice enough to come on and help us out, and my wife and my son, my son also does a Bolt, so it's another dog movie, so we're going to have that. They came on, they helped out because, well, my wife and kid, that's easy. I can record that at 2 a.m. That's not, I don't need time to do that one, really. So, but we're going to do All Dogs Go to Heaven because of the passing of Jules. We wanted to give something that my kids watched afterwards to kind of understand death and how that plays in, and how, my dog wasn't like Charlie. He wasn't a gangster like Charlie was throughout the movie, but the ending really hits home, as to how Charlie makes his way back to heaven, and we'll discuss that as we get into it. Subtle little ties that this movie did have to Disney, though. Chris actually found them. I can't take credit for this, but you have Anne Marie's appearance is based off of Snow White from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which I was thinking the whole time watching it. She has the same color scheme: the red, the blue, the white face with the black hair. You know, MGM cut a scene involving Charlie in hell to avoid possible PG rating because he wanted to keep it G rating, and Don Bluth, the director, owns a private version of the uncut film that has never been released on home media. So that's interesting because I would love to see what that scene is and how it fits into the movie, but we're never going to get it. And another subtle little thing is, so MGM, when Hollywood Studios opened, it wasn't Hollywood Studios, it was MGM Studios. So that's a tie to Disney, right? But they had a big falling out over money, as is always the case. And so Old Dogs Go to Heaven is a 1989 animated musical comedy drama, filmed, directed, and produced by Don Bluth and released by United Artists and Gold Cast Films, apparently something to do with MGM as well. On its cinema release, it competed directly with Walt Disney Pictures animated film. Anyone know? The Little Mermaid. They were released on the exact same day. That's a tough one to go up against, The Little Mermaid.
MGM United Artists weren't known for their animated. They were known for more action movies. And Disney, of course, being Disney, it's something, you know, it's a rivalry of sorts. Or is it really a rivalry? Because at the time it was kind of tied to MGM, which is tied to Disney. So you have sort of that contrast.
Well, yeah, because 1989 is when Hollywood Studios opened. So these companies are working together yet apart, and they make the decision to release a movie in direct competition with what would go on to be one of Disney's greatest animated films of all time. I mean, you can make an argument that Little Mermaid is one of, if not the greatest animation that Disney ever put out. You can make that same argument for Beauty and the Beast. You can make that same argument for Lion King. You can make it for a lot of movies. But however, Disney has a reputation of being a great animated movie. So I don't know if I would take the chance and release opposite them and hope to get ticket sales at the box office.
It's a do or die, I think. We've seen it in recent times with both our fandoms, with examples I'll use is Star Trek Beyond versus Captain America Winter Soldier. Captain America Winter Soldier or Captain America, one of the two, or Captain America Civil War. Civil War, I think it was. Yeah.
Civil War. Did they release on the same day?
They released in the same year, I believe, but it was like 3 months apart. One was summer, one was like winter or something.
Right. So, but that's also the same company. Those are both Disney IPs at that point.
Correct.
So they're really just riding a wave of Captain America. When that starts to die out, now Star Wars. When that starts to die out, the next thing. These released on the same day together.
No, this is Star Trek.
Oh, right. I'm sorry.
Star Trek Beyond.
Yeah, but that's still a 3-month difference. So it's not a direct rival like this is.
Not a direct rival, but there is sales that, because the movies are out for such a long time, not as long as they used to be when we were kids, but there is a set time that these movies are out that it's almost conflicting of what makes more money.
Right.
But one can make that correlate, or at least I do. In my head, I can make that correlation to something like that. But again, really, do you make direct, competition when you're achieving the same goal and you're the same company? It's a dog. Forgive the opinion. Dog eat dog world.
It's very weird. Yeah, it's just a weird idea to go up against an animated film from Disney on the day it releases. To me, but there was a few other connections here with Disney. During the scene when Charlie is in heaven, where they keep all the clocks, one of them is a Mickey Mouse wristwatch. Director Don Bluth was a former Disney animator, which I did not know until 4 minutes ago when I read this. A sad one is this is Judith Barcy's, which is Anne Marie's voice, final film. She and her mother were murdered by Barcy's father a year and a half before the film's release. So this film had been in post-production for at least a year and a half, which is crazy amount of time. The ending theme, Love Survives, is dedicated to Barcy's memory. Director Don Bluth was so heartbroken over this loss that he based Anne Marie's design and mannerisms on her to honor her memory. So clearly, that we could extrapolate from that they did all the voiceovers, then they drew the animation.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. And of course, we're going back 30 years ago, so animation wasn't on top of their game as it is now. So for the year and a half production, on top of what's gone on, the tragedy, to go back and re-edit and redo to finally put it out.
Right. And then to get back to something a little happier, the movie was inspired by It's a Wonderful Life, 1946, Little Miss Marker, 1934, and A Guy Named Joe, 1943. And out of those three, I only know one of them.
You do not stand alone in that. I only know one of them as well.
The one I do know, we watch every year on Christmas Eve while we burn a Yule log. But the other two I've never heard of. Maybe we'll go back and watch those one day just to watch them.
We'll make a little supplemental out of them.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get into the movie itself. We have the different characters, right? So we have Anne Marie is voiced by Judith Barcy, we said. Charlie B. Barker is voiced by Burt Reynolds. Itchenbog or something like that was voiced by Dom DeLuise. Carface was voiced by Vic Tabak, and Killer is voiced by Charles Nelson O'Reilly. That is some cast when you put Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise at the top of that list.
I love Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise. Cannonball Run was one of my favorite comedies, one of my favorite ensemble comedies of all time of the yesteryear. I didn't realize it was Burt Reynolds' voice. I know he was tagged as the voice of, but I didn't realize it was his voice until I realized that it's 30 years prior to when I'm watching this.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and the fact that he sings actually threw me off as well. Also, I forgot to mention who's on here is also Lonnie Anderson, which was his wife at the time, who played, I believe it was the poodle
in Heaven
In Heaven with the seven puppies.
Oh, okay, yeah, the one they brings the pizza to.
Yeah, right, yeah. So it was Lonnie Anderson, Vic Tabak, famous for the show Alice,
right?
Who played the chef at the Alice show. Charles Nelson O'Reilly, very famous as a panelist on multiple game shows back in the 70s.
Okay.
Really is a great comic, stand-up comic, comedian, quick-witted, and really does show his quick-wittedness in this movie as well.
Yes, I would agree. It was the cast was very well put together. The singing, you bring up Burt Reynolds singing, so the songs do not rival that of a Disney movie. They are not as catchy and as long-lasting as a Under the Sea, let's say, from the movie that it was going up against, or Kiss the Girl, or whatever, the different songs that were from Disney movies at the time. And you know, some of the songs that were rivaling it in The Little Mermaid were iconic. They're still sung by many people today, and if you hear it, you just need like 3 or 4 notes, and you're like, oh, that's Little Mermaid. You know, you can do that with Lion King with the Elton John song from that. You can do it with Beauty and the Beast. You can do it with
Pocahontas.
Oh, absolutely. Colors of the Wind. Or even Mulan, I'll Make a Man Out of You, that song. You know, people, for better or for worse, they hear a couple notes and they know that's that. This movie did not have those kind of songs, but the songs they did use really moved the story forward well, I felt. They described the characters well.
They did describe the characters pretty well. Although, you know, it's not too catchy, like you said. Of each of the songs, it really does move the story, and it really tells the story just as a Disney soundtrack would to its movie.
Right, absolutely. Like if you listened, I wouldn't buy this soundtrack, but if you did and listened through, and you've ever seen the movie, you'd know where and who was singing these songs, like what point of the movie and why. So I think they did a good job of that. I don't think it was a terrible job. It's not iconic.
It's not really, in a sense. It almost leaves you with, I can understand why the song was in there. If you're looking at it from that perspective, you know, I can understand why the song was in there, or that's a really nice song that catches up everybody on the story and furthers the story.
Right, and for a little kid, it's fine. They don't need the greatest song of all time. They need something a little bit catchy. and that works out for him. So when we join with this, we see that Charlie